Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming a guest that I've been looking forward to having on for a long time. I couldn't find him for a long time, but then I did. Kevin Van Hentenryck. You all know him as the protagonist in the classic Frank Henonlotter cult classic Basket Case and its sequels. And I'm having him on the show today to talk about them and promote his upcoming appearance at Cult Classics Con at Horror Sideshow Market in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Sorry, I've been having guests from all those cons on this month. I always forget who's at what. And I just can't wait to have him on because A Basket Case was a movie I did not want to watch when I was a kid because it looked so morbidly gross. But then I've come to like it. I watched it for the first time back in 2014 and just loved it. It's a very interesting, morbidly gross movie. So here is my interview with Kevin Van Hentenryck. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, how you doing?
I am great. How are you doing?
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Well, welcome to the show. It's such a great honor. Thank you for taking the time today.
My pleasure.
Awesome. So, going back in time, I was reading you started acting in high school, and your aunt and uncle had been actors?
Yes, both of them. In fact, there's a weird coincidence. My uncle, who was Whitfield Connor, when he was a senior in high school, played the lead in Death Takes a Holiday, and so did I.
So were they Broadway actors?
My uncle was, yeah. His wife, Hala Stoddard, was on, I think it was Secret Storm for like 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Secret Storm. Was that a soap opera?
Yeah, a daytime TV show.
That's right. Did they encourage you to get into acting?
No, I really wasn't that close to them. It's purely coincidental.
It's coincidental. Were your parents supportive of the idea of you getting into it?
Yeah, I think so. My mom was anyways. I'm not quite sure about my dad, but, it was one of only a few things I was any good at.
Yeah. He probably wanted you to get into his line of work or something then?
No, my dad was of that macho generation of World War II, and they didn't have a clue about arts, any of the arts. They didn't want to, and they all thought it was,
silly.
Not what a man should be doing,
Yeah, thought it was silly. They didn't understand it. Did you do musical theater in high school?
Oh, yeah, I did all of that. Oklahoma and South Pacific and, one-act play festivals and so on.
Mm-hmm. Did you do any Shakespeare?
I did Shakespeare once I got into acting school. I went through a couple of different schools for that. And, did the whole Shakespeare and Chekhov and all that. Mm-hmm. Which I loved. I loved Chekhov. Shakespeare's a little tricky because of the language.
Mm-hmm. Did you study with any famous acting teachers?
Not really famous, but when I was in New York at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, I had an amazing woman, Ada Mather Brown, little 5-foot-tall lady with a gray ponytail down to her butt,
Yeah.
Wasn't even teaching acting. She was teaching a test acting instruction I ever had. She was from RADA, which is the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London, and she was a major influence for me.
Mm-hmm. Did you study with any famous actors, or who later became famous, I should say?
Well, Eric Roberts was in my class at the American Academy.
Oh, I love Eric. I just met him at a convention recently. Very nice guy and very wonderfully eccentric, I have to say.
Yeah. He was. I'm in Woodstock, New York, and this year's film festival. He was in a film and did a panel, so I got to say hello. But I was also at a con in Germany with him last year. So we got to hang out a little bit.
Did you get to meet his wife, Eliza?
No, she didn't go on that trip, so no, I haven't met her.
I've had her on the podcast. She's a lovely lady. Very lovely. Wow, so Eric Roberts, anybody else?
Not that I know of, but you know what? I do remember the American Academy on the wall had a picture of Barbra Streisand, who had gone there, and they told her after her first year she had no talent and she should go back to waiting on tables.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you don't want to take the shit people say too seriously.
No. Everybody who has ever been hugely successful has heard those words, you know, and people who say those words don't realize that, you know, the more you say it, the more successful they're going to become, you know?
Yeah.
Did you have people saying that to you?
Not that I remember, but I was not wildly encouraged either. You know, I was just because when I was younger, I was much more like Duane, you know, and not particularly self-confident or outgoing or anything.
Mm-hmm. So you attended the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and that's where you met Frank Henonlotter?
Yes. Now, in the film, there's a social worker who comes up to see the boys for himself, the glasses. I don't know if you remember that scene or know that scene in the film, but anyways, that's played by Ilza, who also worked as assistant registrar at the school. And the registrar was Ruth Newman, who plays the aunt in Basket Case. So at one point, Ilza says to me, I know this guy that makes movies. You should meet him. And so I said, okay. So I met him, and he gave me a couple of extra parts in the film just before Basket Case, which was called Flash of the Knife. And I believe Frank put that on the latest DVD release. So anyways, I played 3 parts in that. An inmate in a mental institution, tall woman at a wedding, and I forget the third one. Something along the railroad tracks. But he liked the way I worked, and I was always on his case to use student actors because we need the experience and could use the exposure, and he would get better results. And I don't know, sometime later, maybe 6 months, he called me up and he said he has this idea for a film, and could I listen to it? And I did, and he, on the phone, told me the story of Basket Case and said, was I interested? And I said, I'm there, man.
Yeah. With all those characters you played in that movie, though, was there any split screen?
In Flash of the Knife, no. No.
Yeah, because you probably wouldn't have been able to afford, processing, that kind of editing with a budget like that, you know.
Oh yeah, even Basket Case, we were shooting in 16 millimeter. You know, it was a very no budget kind of a production.
Yeah, it would cost what, $33,000?
That's what I've heard, though. I'm not all that sure that's accurate. I mean, there were days when we would only have enough film to shoot for half the day, or if there wasn't enough money for lunch, we only did half a day, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the basket case movies, when I was growing up, every video store I ever went to had the movie on the shelf. And there was just something about that cover, like, made me never wanted to see it. Like, it wasn't going to be my cup of tea. But then in 2014, I watched it one night on YouTube. Not only was I right, I also enjoyed it at the same time. It's a very clever movie.
Yeah, we stumbled onto a kind of an archetype. Everyone that sometimes feels like an outsider.
Right.
Even more than, even deeper than that, is we all have that dark half that we carry around with us, and try to keep an air of civility and a lid on the dark half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's got a great message about being different and all that stuff, but it's also very groundbreaking in body horror, which David Cronenberg, was pioneering at that time, but Frank took it, I think, a step further.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pushing the boundaries, because Frank always said he considered it an exploitation movie.
Right.
So, I don't know. I've always thought of it as a monster movie.
Yeah.
And today we're in the horror genre, but, so much of horror today is more like torture porn,
Yeah.
The movies I grew up on were the original Frankenstein and The Day the Earth Stood Still and The Thing,
Mm-hmm. Well, Day the Earth Stood Still is more science fiction than horror, but
but I mean the quality of filmmaking, not graphic, more intellectual than graphic.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot more horror nowadays is more supernatural than anything, at least the ones I've seen the last few years. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I prefer, the kind of gory, gross movies like this.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Now, when you got the script for this movie, did you open it and go, "What the fuck is this"?
No, because again, as I said, Frank had gone through the whole film with me in substantial detail, so I knew what I was going in for, and for me as an actor, what I was really looking forward to is essentially I play both brothers, even though not literally, but I had to supply, they call it an inner monologue in acting, where you're, like if you're talking on the phone, but there's no one on the other end, you have to imagine their dialogue. With today's technology, they can do the whole thing in one take, but in those days, like inhabiting the basket with the presence, that was my job.
Mm-hmm. That classic scene where you're hanging from the hotel sign, was that scary to do?
No, it wasn't scary at all. Actually, it was a lot of fun. That was my studio in Tribeca that we hung the sign from my fire escape, because in those days, Tribeca was this abandoned, derelict neighborhood. After the rush hour traffic died down, it was deserted down there, so it was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So they had this sign, which they bolted onto the fire escape, and Edgar made a platform for the top of his van, and then I wore a harness under my clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And so they drove the van under the sign. I stood on top of the platform. They bolted me to the sign, so I was essentially mechanically attached to the sign and the fire escape, drive the van out from under under me and then shoot the scene.
Huh. Yeah, because that certainly is one of the most memorable scenes in the movie. You know, it's like right up there with, you know, other classic horror movie scenes where something just, you know, out of the ordinary and frantic happens.
Thank you.
Of course, of course. So how many days did it take to film the movie?
We spent about a year filming.
Yeah.
You know, evenings and weekends.
Mm-hmm.
That they were buying. It was called short end of film. So if someone didn't buy a whole reel, there would be bits of raw film left over, and they were able to get that at a discount. And Frank would do things like, I don't know, we'd shoot 5 or 6 scenes, and he'd put together a rough compilation of what we had and show it to people and get more money. Then we buy more film and shoot a couple more scenes and repeat. So, yeah, we built the set, which was the one room and the hallway. So both Casey's room and Duane and Bilau's room are the same room, just redecorated.
Yeah.
So we built that in Uji's loft, and, you know, we would go there on weekends or, you know, in the evenings whenever people were available and they had enough money for film, we'd go and we'd do a couple of scenes. And we spent almost a year making it, and they spent almost a year putting it together and finding a deal, you know.
Yeah, sometimes with these low budget movies, you'll get it done in 3 weeks or sometimes 3 years.
Yeah. Well, I've heard stories of people taking 10 years to put a film together.
Oh yeah.
And I've also heard stories of Cliff Robertson did a film that never got released. You know?
Wow. Yeah.
So it's a real bullshit business as a business.
Mm-hmm. But eventually everything gets done. You know, sometimes not the way you'd hope, but it gets done. You know, because to me, making a movie is a gift. Whether the movie turns out good or bad, you know, it's a gift because not everybody can do it.
Well, the thing with art is that I think appeals to artists is the moment of creativity is where the exchange happens. That's where the energy comes from. It's nice to have a product, like a painting or a sculpture or a film,
Mm-hmm.
but the real deal of it is that creative moment. In film, that's the moment, you know, when the director says action, you know, that's when it really happens. The product is nice, and if it's successful and you can make some money on it, that's fun too, but it's that moment of creation that's the real deal.
Mm-hmm. I heard Frank was always the woman walking in high heels. when you hear the sound of heels.
Oh, when they were doing the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sound engineering. Yeah, and when they cut the little Bilal off of me, the sound is the squeaking balloon.
Mm-hmm.
And another one that Frank loved is when we did the scene in Needleman's office where he gets cut in half.
Mm-hmm.
We had pizza for lunch that day.
Oh my God.
To the effect and the fake blood.
Yeah.
Stuffed some of the pizza and put it in there. So it's a little of everything.
Oh my God, yeah. Got to do on a shoestring budget, you know, because you guys can't. You guys couldn't afford Tom Savini.
No.
You mentioned before Beverly Bonner. How was she to work with?
Beverly's fantastic. I love working with her, and you know, I can't say enough good things about her. She has a comedy show in Manhattan that she does regularly.
Right.
She just did a short film called Steamed, which Frank is in, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she's a real professional and funny and a really good actress.
Yeah, I've been trying to get her on since I started, but I haven't gotten a response yet. Hopefully, I'll get her on. Terry Susan Smith, is she still around?
Last I heard, she's in Sweden. But she is on Facebook, and she goes by the name of... Oh, wait, I'm just blanking out. It's not Terry Susan, it's Ahu Smith.
It's
A-H-U Smith.
Uh-huh.
She is on Facebook for that. And there was just a thing, they did a showing of Basket Case, and she was there and did a signing for it, like last month, I think.
Oh, cool. Yeah, another one guest of mine that was in the second one is Judy Oliver, who played Brainiac.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, how was she on that movie?
Oh man, I don't remember the specific people that played the freak, because most of the time when I was with them, they were in costume and you couldn't, which was very involved too.
Yeah.
Because each freak with a head had to have a freak wrangler because they couldn't see and they were roasting alive inside those costumes.
Yeah.
So every second that we weren't filming, they had like a hairdryer on the cool setting, blowing cool air into them so they wouldn't pass out. So I didn't get to know the people, most of the people. I do know that David from David Emge
right.
played Mooney.
Yeah, from Dawn of the Dead.
And there was somebody else, but I can't remember. Oh, one of them, I think Leon, had been the Toxic Avenger at one point.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But, you're talking a long time ago, too. My memory's not that great anymore.
Uh-huh.
All of the people that... See, so the second one was filmed in New York. Mm-hmm. They took over a pier downtown across from the UPS building, and they did the two films back to back, Frankenhooker and Basket Case 2. So they used the same space. They built sets for each, and it was a real marathon. Think of this: Gabe and Frank must have been out of their minds. All of the effects that were in Frankenhooker, and then they went into Basket Case 2 and did all of those effects. These guys are nuts.
Yep. Of the three Basket Case movies, which is your favorite and which one was the most fun to make?
Oh, the first one, because we were like family, we hung out, and like the Statue of Liberty scene, for example, we had no permission to do that, we just went over there, and Frank said, we're going to do this in one take, get it right, and to do it and run, and that's exactly what we did. So that was the most fun. The second and the third were professional films. They were union films. We had a better budget and a full crew. Like we actually had sound guys and lights and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was nice. It's nice to work that way. It adds a whole layer of, complications that you don't have if it's 3 or 4 guys in a camera, But the other thing I like about the first film is, for example, when when Casey comes into Duane and Blyle's room to warn them about keeping Tom.
Yep.
You see a kind of a bum go by out in the hall, and that's Bruce Torbay, who was the DP.
Wow.
He was amazing. This guy could do miraculous things with no money. So stuff Angie, whose loft it was, is in there as well, you know? So, you know, you can't work like that in a union film because of all the regulations, you know? Right. We were able to pull that off with the first film, the way it was shot and everything, you know? So, yeah, it's a different kind of a filmmaking.
Yeah. Did you guys have permission to use the subway?
In the second film, yes. That was the one thing they did have to get permission from. We had one subway car, and we had it for 1 hour. Mm-hmm. And we did like, I don't know, Frank probably knows, but I think we did like 24 or 26 setups in an hour. It was like unbelievable. It was bam, 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 you know, now go over here and do this, now do this, you know, and we were able to pull it off, and it looks pretty good, considering.
Yeah, that must have been exhausting.
Well, it's exhilarating at the moment, and afterwards you think, man, I hope some of that worked.
Yeah. So between making each basket case movie, were you auditioning for other movies? Were you doing theater?
You know, I did a lot of theater before Basket Case, but about 2 years before Basket Case, I discovered sculpture and had really switched my primary focus to stone carving. But when Frank called with the idea for Basket Case, it was too good to pass up.
Right.
You know, my primary focus has always been on the sculpture. But to give you an example of how the business of being an actor is, when Basket Case 2 was playing in Manhattan, I think it was like 12 or 14 theaters in daytime, you know, with my name up on the marquee, I was calling up agents, trying to get an agent, and getting, send in a picture and resume, if we can use it, we'll call you.
Yeah.
You know, and I have a very short patience level for that, you know. Because with the sculpture, I can do my work. I can do the best of my work without getting permission or, you know, auditioning. I don't know. I just say, and the sculpture is where my heart really is anyway. And so,
yeah,
I didn't want to do it anymore. You know, the auditions and here's another story. When Milos Forman filmed Hair, I was up for one of the secondary characters. I don't remember anymore which one. And you know, I went through this whole process of auditioning and all the accompanying bullshit.
Yep.
And didn't get it. And I was told that I was too tall to look young enough. Well, you could tell from the way I look in Basket Case, I looked pretty young.
Yeah.
And it turned out that the guy that got the part was a half an inch shorter than me.
Oh my God.
So it's all bullshit. It's, you know, who you know, what kind of an agent you have, and all that shit.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. It's been going on for, you know, decades now. It really needs to change. Someone's got to blow the whistle on it.
I didn't have the patience for it, and I didn't have the heart for it because my heart was really in stone carving.
So do you have a gallery?
I do have a gallery at my studio. As a matter of fact, I just dropped off a piece today for a show in Beacon, New York. Where are you calling from? Where are you located?
I'm in Redding, California.
Oh, okay, yeah. There's a show opening this weekend, this Saturday. I just dropped off a piece for that. It's at the Beacon Artists Union. And I had a couple of pieces in different shows over the summer. I do have a website. now. It's not completely finished, but it's up there. It's www.kevinvanh.com. And so please encourage your listeners to click on it and check it out.
Absolutely.
I'm told by the web guy that right now we're on page 4 or 5, and the more people that click on it, it goes up in the Google ratings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't understand how that works, but the more people look at it, the closer to the front we'll be.
Yeah. What's your specialty when you make sculptures?
I'm a figurative stone carver, so the human form is high on the list of priorities.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff I've been doing for about the last 10 years, I call it the Fragment series. It's a sculpture on one side of the stone, and on the other, it's like the stone is part of a ruined structure, and there's a little refugee family in there. So I've been doing sculptures about refugees for about 12 years now.
Would you say you sculpt much the same way that a painter paints?
Oh, that's hard to say because there's a lot of different ways that people paint. A friend of mine, Isaac Abrams, who is the original psychedelic artist, he paints very fast with a lot of fluid on the canvases so that the colors will flow into each other and so on. I'm much more of a classicist in the way I approach things. I know before I start where I'm going with it. So, yeah, but and again, other stone carvers will work differently, you know?
Yeah. Everyone's got their own style then.
Exactly.
So February 15th and 16th, you'll be at the Horror Sideshow Market in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Do you enjoy signing shows?
I do, because I only do a handful of them every year. I don't do a lot of them. So it's still fun. It's I get to hang out in a really cool environment. My favorite thing about the cons is that out in the real world, you know, people will cut you off in traffic and pull in front of you and cut in front of you in line. But at the cons, people are friendly and say hello to each other and cool shirt or where did you get that hat or, you know, whatever. You know? Because everyone is there for the same reason. It's more like this huge extended family reunion than in real life. And I really enjoy that. And, you know, the fans are amazing, of course. And they're there because of work that I did in 1979 that was released in 1982. Think about this. You know, and it still has legs today. That's astounding for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those cult classics that's going to live on, you know. It's just, it made such a lasting impression on the horror nerds, you know, such as
Thank
myself. You. Of course. Have you done a con in California yet?
A long time ago, Tony Timpone brought me out to one of the Fangoria shows.
I love Tony, yeah.
And I actually played guitar at that one, but I was working on a carving in Spanish cedar at that time, and like a week before the con, I sliced open one of my fingers. So I did not play very well that weekend, but it was fun to be there, yeah.
Oh, God, that just must have been uncomfortable.
Yeah, you know, there's kind of unbelievable stuff that happens.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Kevin, if you get booked in California again, I hope I get to meet you because I will be there. And I hope your sculpting continues to grow and that you have a great time at this signing.
Oh, people are going to hear this?
Yes, upload it to YouTube.
Excellent, excellent. So they'll hear about the website. That's fantastic.
They sure will. And
you know anybody that puts on conventions in California?
I'm aware of certain people and stuff, but I don't have a relationship with them.
Yeah.
You know, I know this one guy who does a bunch of Comic Cons around California, but I don't think he wants any horror people though.
Yeah. I did Texas Frightmare Weekend a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Lloyd Cryer, and that was a great show. So I'm hoping to go back out there at some point. You know, I try not, like, if I appear in a given area,
mm-hmm.
try not to go back, you know, for a few years at least.
Yeah.
I'm also doing Shock Stock in Ontario in May,
mm-hmm.
Which is a con I did about 5 years ago, and I'll be playing music there because both of the guys that put it on are musicians, and they have a great band, so I'm going to play with them.
Wonderful. What instruments do you play?
Guitar, you know, rock and roll.
Nice. I love rock and roll.
Well, I hope I can get out there sometime and play some music. That'll be fun.
Yep, I hope so. You have yourself a great night over there, Kevin.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much for this.
My pleasure. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Kevin Van Hentenryck. Ain't he a cool dude? Great guy, interesting guy, has passions for the arts. Gotta love that. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes.